Hi there, welcome to this lecture series on matrix algebra. This is lecture 32, part 1. The topic is on the applications of matrix theory. In particular, we'll be looking at local maxima and minima, and polynomials, exponentials, and square root of a matrix. Let's get started. Let's review what we know about the local maxima and the minima of a function that depends on one variable. Let's say we have a function f of one variable, f of x. When it attains a local maximum or a local minimum, let's say at point x bar, this happens, then the first derivative of the function vanishes. When we say vanishes, we mean that the value of that function is 0. So the first derivative means the tangent of the graph of the function. So if we plot the graph f of x, and at the point when it attains a local minimum, then the tangent here, the gradient here, is horizontal. So there's a horizontal line touching this at a point that's tangent. And then for the local maximum, also at that point, and the gradient is 0, that means there's a tangent line that's horizontal and touches that graph at a point. So that is called the first derivative test. And then you want to know if it is a local max or a local min. Like here in the graph, you see that's a local min and that's a local max. Then how can we run some test on the function to find that? Well, this will be the second derivative test. So we can compute the second derivative, which means the change of the first derivative at the point. So if the second derivative is bigger than 0, then that point is a local minimum, like this one. And then if the second derivative is less than 0, then the point is a local maximum, as this one here. And then if it is 0, then that's not enough information for us to determine. So we can't conclude, and we have to run further tests. Okay, so look at the graph. We see that when it has a local minimum at x bar, then the gradient coming from the left going to the right are changing sign from -1 to +1. Therefore, it's increasing, so the second derivative is bigger than 0. And when you have a local maximum, then the derivative here is positive and then passes 0, and then here becomes negative. So it's decreasing, and therefore the second derivative is less than 0. So the next step we're interested in is that if the function depends on multiple variables, what can we say? Now let's review or introduce, depending on if you have learned this before. This is the Taylor's formula for functions with several variables. So let's consider a function f depends on n variables. Let's call them x1, x2, and xn. Then the polynomial of degree 2 that best approximates the function f in the neighborhood of a point x bar will be exactly the first 3 terms of the Taylor series. So this p here, this is a polynomial of degree 2, would equal to, and this is the Taylor series, so we're taking only the first 3 terms. So the first term is the function f evaluated at x bar, and then the second term would be a constant bi here for each I times xi minus xi bar. So how far away you are from x bar, and then multiply by some bi, and you sum up over all components. And then the third term is a double summation sign. You have coefficients aij, and that's multiplied by xi minus xi bar, xj minus xj bar. So here the coefficients, the bi's and the aij's, and they are as the follows. So bi will be the first partial derivative of f computed at x bar in all the components. So bi would be partial derivative of f with respect to xi, so this I matches that I, and that's a function, and that function is evaluated at x bar. This will be the bi. And we will be using this notation. We will write a subscript here, so f, here's a subscript xi. This notation means the partial derivative of f with respect to xi. Okay? And then the ai's here are actually the second partial derivative, as follows. aij equal to the second partial derivative of f with respect to xi, and then with respect to xj, and that's evaluated at x bar. And to avoid writing this huge expression, we will write f and then subscript with xi, xj to mean that. So this is a notation. Now let's introduce matrix notation for the Taylor's formula. So this is the Taylor's formula. We're writing out the first three terms. And you see it's quite heavy, and there's summation sign, double sum, and a bit heavy to notate that. So we now denote the first derivatives to be bi, that's f and partial derivative with respect to xi, and then aij to be the second derivative with respect to xi and xj. So we can write them as a vector and matrices. So now x is a vector without index. X minus x bar is a vector that is just how far away x is from x bar in each component. This will be the x1 and the x2 and xn. And then for b, we collect all the bi's and write it into a column vector. And then the aij with double index. There are exactly n times n of them, and we can sort them out, line them up in this way, and form a matrix A. So we see that in B, we are collecting all the first partial derivatives, and in A, we're collecting all the second partial derivatives. And in fact, these quantities, they have their own mathematical terms and notations. So B here is a collection of the first derivatives. And this we would write this upside down triangle and capital delta of f. And then one also can write in words, it's the gradient of f, and that's a vector. And then A here, one could also write it as d square, meaning all the derivatives twice, second derivative of f. And it's also called the Hessian of f. This is a matrix. Okay, so with all these definitions, we can write it more compactly. This heavy expression can be written as fx is equal fx bar plus b transpose times x minus x bar, and then plus a half x minus x bar transpose times a times x minus x bar. Okay, so you can fill these expressions in or here and work it out, and you will see that it's exactly this expression. Now let's study the local maxima and local minima of this function. So all that matters are these first three terms. Okay, so to find the point of a local max and the local min for this function f, we'll have the following. So first we want to find a point, let's call x bar, where all the first derivatives vanish. so they equal 0, which means this vector b here, b, let's write b transpose, so I don't have to write a long vector, so I can write a row vector, not a column. Okay. So that's the partial derivative, f with respect to all the xi's evaluated at x bar, and they must all be 0. And secondly, we need to compute the Hessian matrix. That's the matrix of second order derivatives of this f at x bar. Once you have that matrix, and then you need to check if this matrix is positive or negative definite. So we see that we have the following property. If x bar is a local maximum or local minimum, then we know that this b is 0. So this is 0. So this term is 0. And if we approximate everything only with the first 3 terms, then we see that we can move this to the left-hand side. We'll have f of x minus fx bar is very well approximated by this term. That's what we wrote here. And plus other higher order terms which are much smaller. Okay, so we have this approximation. Now we have the so-called second derivative test for functions of multiple variables, and the corresponding part to function of single variables, but here it is a bit different. So the A matrix here, you need to check if it's positive definite or negative definite. If you find that all the eigenvalues of A are all positive, then this is positive definite, and then x bar would be a local minimum point. Secondly, if A is negative definite, meaning all the eigenvalues of A is negative, then this x bar will be a local maximum point. And if A is indefinite, meaning some part of it is positive and some part of it is negative, and then we will conclude that x bar is a so-called a saddle point, meaning it's neither local maximum nor local minimum. And finally, if the A matrix is semi-definite, that means some eigenvalues are 0 and then the rest has a fixed sign, then this is not enough information for us to determine if it's local max or local min. So no information. And we can look at the graphs of the meaning of the first 3 tests. So A is positive definite. Let's say f is a function of 2 variables, x1 and x2. Then you can visualize the surface plot of this function. We see that if it is a local minimum, the plot will look like this. And if it's a local maximum, the plot will look like that. And then if it is a saddle point, then it's maximum in one direction and minimum in the other. Let's take an example. Let's see, we have a function f depending on x1, x2, and x3, which is written as follows: some exponential part, cosine part, and polynomial part. And we want to check whether this function has a local maximum or a minimum at the origin, where all the x1, x2, x3s are 0. So we see that we have to test 2 things. One is the first derivative, and the second one is the second derivative. So let's compute the first derivatives, all the partial derivatives of f with respect to x1, x2, and x3, all 3 of them. So taking partial derivative of this with respect to x1, and you would consider all the other x2 and x3, consider them as constant. Okay, so this derivative will give us the exponential function in x1, and this will give us 1 because we differentiate in x1, and then differentiating cosine give you negative sine, and differentiating x1 you get x3, and this is a constant, so you get 0. Okay, so you do all these and you get that. And then we want to evaluate at the point 0, 0, 0, at the point that we are interested in. We see that all the three partial derivatives are 0. So it passed the first derivative test. And now we need to compute the Hessian matrix, the second derivative. And there will be, because there are three independent variables, so we'll have f differentiated in x1 and x1. And then you do it twice and you get that. And then you differentiated f with respect to x2 and then again x2, and you will get this cosine. And then x3, you will get that. And then there will be the mixed derivatives. You differentiate with respect to x1 and then x2, you will get this. And also, if you differentiate x2 first and x1 afterwards, it's the same because this is a continuous, a smooth function. Okay, so with respect to x1, x3, or x3, x1 is 1, and then the last one is 0. Okay, then we need to evaluate all of this at the point 0, 0, 0, set all xi's to be 0, and we can form the second derivative, the matrix of it, the Hessian matrix. So A will be this matrix. It's symmetric because all these partial derivatives with exchanging the order of xi, xj, they are the same. So putting the value, we get this matrix. Okay, so let's put the A matrix here, the Hessian matrix. Now we need to check if A is positive definite or negative definite. So we can use the Sylvester's theorem, the criterion, and we compute the determinant of all these submatrices. Okay, so take the first one, that's 2, determinant is 2, and then the second one is this one, and determinant is 1, and then the third one is the whole 3 by 3, and it's 7. So we see that all three of them are strictly positive. That means the A matrix is positive definite. And the second derivative test tells us that if it's positive definite, the second derivative matrix, then this f will have a local minimum at the point 0, 0, 0. This is the end of part 1, and in part 2 we will look at several more functions of matrices and see how they can be defined. Okay, so I hope you enjoyed this part, and I'll see you soon.